Let's get this party started. Buenas tardes. ¿Cómo estás? Hope everyone is doing fantastic. Let's find the right volume level for the music. Okay. You tell me? Hope everyone's doing good. It's Monday. No messing around. Thomas, sorry you can't make the live stream. We'll see how it goes with the Monday thing. You know, for now it needs to be Monday. I'm sorry. We may change that or add another day as time goes on. Let's see. All right. I'm doing good, thanks, Lulu. And I hope you are too. I hope we're all doing well. Okay, so here's the deal with today's reference. Grafit Studio put out a few weeks ago, they put out a free pack. I only had a chance to have a look at it yesterday. And I thought, well, this would be a lovely opportunity for those that are not members to be able to go download the free pack from Grafit Studio and draw along. So that's kind of the idea here. And I would recommend, even for those of you who are members, it's a free pack. Why wouldn't you go download it? It's like 650 images. And there's some really great poses. I've obviously only picked 6 for today. But there's some really nice ones. So, you know, something to consider. Free is good. So, what we're going to do, as I said, we've got 6 poses. I have yet to decide what my pace will be today, how many we will even get through. Will we get through all of them? Who knows? I'm going to start probably with a round of 15. That's going to be the goal. Take it from there. And here, oh, by the way, Thomas, I just saw you say 600 free images. Definitely downloading that when I get home. You should. Here's a little pro tip for you about downloading images. You can, of course, go ahead and download all 650 of them. I think that the file size is roughly about 2.5 gigs, if I recall. Obviously, I download an awful lot of images. What I end up doing is I end up going to their read button where you can see all the images on Dropbox, and then I download just the ones that I think are, I'll download maybe 20 or 30 at a time rather than all 600, because initially when I was downloading reference packs, you know, 1,400 images, I was downloading the whole lot, and now every time for every stream I'm like adding 5 gigs of images to my computer. So that was the switch I made. And I find that that's very useful because you can always go back to the Dropbox at any point and obviously download more if you need to. So something to consider, but you may just want to download the whole lot. Okay, I'm rambling. Never a good sign, especially this early in the stream. So let's get down to business. First pose. I have listed in the, so for those of you who do want to go download the pack, down below in the description, you'll see a link. That link will actually bring you to a page on my website. I can't link directly to the Grafit Studio page because there's nudity and YouTube will put me in YouTube jail. So you click on that link and then that will bring you to the Grafit Studio page where you can then download one or all of the images as you wish. I've also listed in the description below the images that I've used for this session. You'll have to hunt through the different folders though. They have them categorized like poses, lying poses, standing poses. I didn't get that specific. I've given you the image numbers. Good luck. All right, let's roll. As I said, we'll start with a 15. Take it from there. Okay. Let me start the clock. Boom. There we go. This is a lovely pose. Obviously, we're dealing with a standing pose here, but there's actually an awful lot of rhythm to it, even though it's very much kind of a standing, what would you call it, like 3/4 front. And then we got a supporting leg coming down here this way. About here. I already know that I don't like this pencil. A different one. There we go. Let's find our center line. This leg is like kind of relaxed coming towards us. Obviously the right leg supports. Iliac crest coming down this way to the aces, sitting about here. Inguinal ligament. Then yeah, this leg is kind of coming out this way, right? Doing something like this. To our knee, that sits about here. Once again, if we, we talked last session about kind of cylinders and thinking in terms of volume and mass, like we can be thinking and rings, right? Someone talked about rings. What I think we really mean is kind of we're thinking about the geography, and we can think about this as kind of like a cylinder, right? But we can actually kind of subdivide the terrain on that a little bit and think of it more kind of in these terms. And down here it's a little bit boxier, probably something a little bit more like that. Tibia coming down this way. Cool. This knee sitting about here. Rib cage. Manubrium sitting here. Our rib cage is sitting somewhere here. Now we can't see her navel. Her hand is actually covering it, but we know it's going to be there. And I want to put it in because I want to understand what this topography looks like. Something like that. Clavicle coming up this way. Head of the humerus is going to be about here. This arm coming down, as I said, this hand is coming down this way. The wrist is almost right in front of where the navel would be. So we know that the hand is kind of sitting about here. Something like that. That'll do for now. This clavicle coming down this way. Coming off this center line, you guys, I know I bang this drum to death, but it's so important. For me, the most important line for the neck and the attachment of the head is going to be the extension from the manubrium here and that sternocleidomastoid coming up this way. Look at the way it follows our center line. Critical. So useful. Then we can start thinking about the trapezius on each side, but putting that idea in, knowing that the ear is going to be sitting right there, and we can think even about like our jawline and some basic head anatomy, but that sternocleidomastoid, not every time, but so many times it helps work as an extension off that center line and brings a rhythm into the head. So useful. And the shoulders in here. So we've got our clavicles here. Coming down, our pectorals going to be sitting here. Let's find out the V of the breastplate. Being mindful of the distance between the clavicle and the crease, let's say, of the pectoral there. Pressing in here. Same thing. Clavicle, pectorals coming in about here. For those of you also who are wondering, it is not lost on me the fact that we have not drawn a male model in a minute. I do want to, the plan is hopefully next week we'll do a male model. Honestly, a lot of it comes back to this ongoing kind of saga of just not having enough good male reference that we haven't already kind of worked through. But I'm thinking I might use a male model next time so we can look at some anatomy. So anyway, we'll see. But I do try and be mindful of us doing it fairly even mix, but it's obviously that has not been the case of late. But it's important that we draw both. Okay, so we're at 7 minutes. I said about 15, didn't I? So it's probably a good opportunity to start a little bit of tie down here. Camille asks, for my friend, does he need to know anatomy very well, all the muscles and bones, even if he draws fully clothed characters? No, I don't. He doesn't need to know it very well. He needs to know some basic ideas, right? That would be my advice. And if you've been following the stream at all, you'll know how I feel about landmarks and their importance. No, I think that I think people can get overly hung up. You see, when people say to me, do I need to know anatomy? First question almost inevitably is, well, what kind of drawing do you want to do? You want to be like a character designer for animation, for example. You know what? You don't need to know anatomy in the same way that a figurative artist that's going to dedicate their life to drawing the human form is, right? Like, some basic ideas are really useful. But no, I think that people get too... It's about understanding functional anatomy that's useful for what you do. Even if, though, I would say this, even if you're drawing a figure clothed, super important to understand how the body acts like a human clothes hanger, right? Where are the points that the material drapery hangs from, for example, from the shoulders, for example. Understanding how there's forms underneath the material of the drapery that you're drawing so that you're not drawing into the form, right? I've seen that happen. People got to do creases on arms that it would actually be, the creases would be breaking into the form of the arm. So it's about finding a balance. But I think that it's too easy to start stressing about things like anatomy. The thing is, you'll learn the anatomy that you need to know, and that'll just come with time. Now, you might find, like in my case, I didn't think when I started this journey I was going to need to know or know as much anatomy as I do at all. But I've actually enjoyed the process of studying it, and yeah, it's like it's kind of fascinating, right? So you just never know where this, you know, we come into this thinking we're just going to do art, and the next thing we know, we're learning anatomical names for things. It's kind of it's a bit of a weird shift of mental gears that you need to make, and kind of make peace with the fact that that's what you're doing, but not really something that as you go in to do art that you're really kind of expecting to find yourself having to do. Funny old game. So coming up, tricep, coming up to the deltoid, sitting in here, around that way. Obliques in there. Tensor fasciae latae, actually gluteus medius, really. Tensor fasciae latae is actually sitting next to rectus femoris here. We can see kind of where rectus femoris is just connecting at the aces there. Coming down this way, right? Then next to that would be tensor fasciae latae sitting in there, gluteus medius next to that, right? Phoenix asks, Richard, what book would you recommend on anatomy? Book, not digital stuff. Well, Phoenix, we immediately run into a bit of a roadblock here, because I believe personally that what's available digitally now as far as anatomy apps is so far superior a way to learn anatomy than buy a book. But that's not what you're asking. You're saying book, not digital stuff. So what book would I recommend? There's a lot of books out there. There are some that actually the anatomy is incorrect in. So that's tricky. There are some standards that are probably worth having in your collection. I'm sorry, I'm just looking over because I never refer to them. I don't even know the names of them. Not an anatomy book per se, but a book about figurative art and how anatomy is used is The Masterclass in Figure Drawing by Robert Beverly Hale. That's a very good book. As far as that's hardcore anatomy, Struttura or Uomo. It's an Italian an anatomy book. Excellent. My go-to if there's only one. That's good. There is another, sorry, very unprofessional, having my back to the stream. I don't see it there, and I forget the name of it. Oh, I'll look at it another time. So there you go. That would be the go-to. Struttura Uomo would be the number one for anatomy. And then the Robert Beverly Hale book, Masterclass in Figure Drawing, is very good. But I would strongly, if you're serious about learning anatomy, let me just say, very, 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 very important tool, in my opinion, the thing that I find that helped me the most, or that I refer to the most, I should say, is a app for your phone called Essential Anatomy 5. It's expensive. It's like 25 quid or dollars or euros, wherever, depending where you are. But here's the beautiful thing about it, Phoenix. You can turn muscles on and off. You can see muscles in transparency mode. You can rotate the model. You can see things from angles. You can see the way that things relate to each other and connect to each other in a way that's far deeper than anything you're going to get from a book. And that, my friend, is the way to go. Okay? So if you want to learn anatomy and you want to learn it efficiently, that would 100% be my recommendation to you. And I think that you'll be glad for getting away from the book concept and going down that path. That's my advice. But obviously, do as you need to do. I do understand the appeal of books, but I also think that we need to embrace when there's better tools to be had. We need to look at that seriously and consider integrating it into our workflow. Most guys over at Essential Anatomy really need to sponsor the stream. We're far too much business their way. Them and generals, what's going on? Come on, let's get some sponsorships going here. Constantly recommending you guys' products. I'm just looking at some basic core shadow ideas to really, once again, just help describe anatomy as much as anything. Not looking to necessarily block everything in with tone. We're at 17 minutes, yeah, so we'll just give this another minute or two and then we'll wrap it up. Let's block in a little bit of this just to help make sense of a few of these ideas. Gives it a little bit of form. Might as well. Very light, nothing crazy here. All right, I'm going to call it there. Oh. Okay, nice little warm up. Nothing too strenuous. And what do we do? 20? No, not terrible. I suppose I'm looking for anatomy for dummies. Digital vibe seems so complex and overwhelming. Because I think the problem is that you're the psychology and the approach that you're thinking, Phoenix, about learning anatomy. it's not about just picking up a book. In my opinion, the way to learn anatomy is not just about picking up a book, starting at the first page and reading it right through to the end. I don't think that's the way that we should learn anatomy. I think we should be drawing, and we should be referring to anatomy to understand what it is that we're drawing. This to me is the fastest way, because then we can really zone in on what it is that we need to know at a particular point in time and in a particular point in our development as an artist, rather than looking at it. Because what's going to inevitably happen is you're going to buy an anatomy book and there's going to be a full figure and just lines pointing to every bloody muscle on the body, front and back, side, etc. What are you going to do with that information? No. You're much better off starting to do your figurative journey, starting to draw the figure. Then you're going to say, what's going on there? How does that connect there? Oh, let me just open the app and have a look. Oh, okay, that muscle's attached there. Okay, what's the name of that muscle? Oh, that's good to know. And guess what? You'll do that a couple of hundred times and you'll start to develop a library of understanding. Right? That's the way. I'm telling you. Not about trying to read a book from cover to cover or the A to Z of anatomy for dummies. It's ultimately not going to be the way that you're going to learn. You may think that's the way you're going to learn. It's not. I'm telling you. Trust me on this. Okay, next pose. This is a nice one, isn't it? A lot of rhythmical ideas with this pose. It's very quiet, but it's got a lot of power to it. When I saw this pose, I immediately knew that it was something I wanted to have a crack at. So let's hit the clock. And we'll get going. So let me just check my pencil situation. Ah, James, that's so kind of you, man. Thank you so much. Really. How nice. And shout out to James. For those of you who don't know, this guy has literally watched, I think, just about and drawn along with just about every single stream. Absolute beast. So, thank you, James. And thank you for your continued support, man. Okay. The clock is reset. Now, my advice, you're going to start with the shoulders. Start over this way. Give yourself some breathing space. Find the axis of the shoulders, and we've got this, it's also kind of like, because obviously we've got the junction of where the cervical and thoracic vertebrae meet, so we've got this kind of quite aggressive kind of direction change here where the spine C7 and T1 meet, and we come down this way, and we're coming down roughly to, she's seated about here. You see clavicle is there, which is giving us that straight edge, but we know the rib cage is also sitting there. And coming down. Now this is interesting. Where the glute is sitting on this box, I want to be mindful. Let's say we've got this, right? And the thickness of the neck. Trapezius is kind of coming down this way. Okay. Neck sitting here. So this gluteus is actually over here, relative to where the neck is there. If you just kind of like plumb line that down, you'll notice that the glute is actually here. So that's a really kind of handy way for us to measure and find where things are sitting in relationship to each other. I'm going to find a very simple basic shape for what's going on here. But then look at that wonderful kind of shadow for where the iliac crest is kind of coming around the form, coming around this way, right? Sitting in here, coming down and meeting with the sacrum, kind of sitting right in here, give or take, something like that. So now we've got that established, we know that our rib cage is kind of sitting in here. So we're going to have like rib cage, oblique, iliac crest, and then we're coming down the box of the pelvis sitting in here. That'll do us for now. But then look rhythmically, right? Coming off the front of the form here, which is obviously we have the arm in front, but then look at the way that this kind of rhythmically comes down this way. We've got this lovely long line of action, which I am unfortunately going to have to cheat a little bit because I think I need about another 2 inches on the page, but so such is life. Okay, let's draw this box that she's sitting on. So it's coming out this way, out to about here. The side of the box there. We don't need to get too into the details of the box. We just want to understand roughly what it is that we're dealing with there. She's sitting on here now, and we have to imagine that we could see through. We want to work through because this leg is actually kind of coming out this way. And it's going away from us. This calf is kind of coming down this way. Something like that. And we can actually even see, it's really great, we can see this, the division between the gluteus medius sitting in here, sitting in this region here, and gluteus maximus sitting here. Good stuff. Then this other leg, obviously we want to understand where something has come from and where it's going to. We don't want to just draw, copy a series of shapes. So we want to understand the other leg is connecting back here, and then it's revealing itself sitting in about here, right? Coming down, our knee, coming down this way. Same thing with the calf, it's back here, coming in to our foot. We've got our rib cage sitting in here. Scapula, shoulder blade sitting in here, right? Basic shape, simple idea for it, but it's sitting in this region here, the ridge of the scapula coming out this way. Head of the humerus is probably sitting about here. And then this arm is coming down this way. Our elbow sitting roughly where about the oblique is, sitting about here. Brachioradialis muscle, the overlapping muscle of the forearm into the upper arm and attached to the brachial ridge of the humerus. And so this arm is kind of coming down this way. And then the hand is sitting there. I think this is actually probably a bit more here. That'll do for now. Okay, messing about there. Okay. So we've kind of got everything roughly blocked. All right. And then this other arm we can't see really at all. Just see the hand kind of sitting on top of this one here, but that's a minor detail. But overall, I think we're kind of in the ballpark. So let's go to the next stage. I think I want to start with this long line of ideas here. It seems to be like a logical spot to start to refine from. Remember direction change. Don't just go into autopilot. Look for direction change. It's everything. Down below in the description of the video, Mary, you'll see a complete list of the order of the, and the number of the pose and the order in which we're drawing them. Okay. So let's find this line now. Trapezius coming up this way. Now I've got to say, just for those of you who have gone to the trouble of getting the reference, if you're a member, I have all the reference on my website. It's a perk for members. You can just go to the, if you're a channel member, just go to the reference page for March, and every reference page or every image that we work with, you'll find a version of it there. And if you're doing this on any kind of regular basis, well, that's really the way to go. It's only like about $3 a month or something like that. Crazy. Who priced these things? Madness. Okay. If you are interested in becoming a member and you want to understand how it all works, there is a link in the description below to something called Live Stream FAQ. It brings you to a page on my website that kind of explains the different tiers and the way that we use the reference and yada yada. So check it out if you're at all interested, because it's a good thing. So thinking about the oblique sitting here and here when I'm thinking about direction change. So we can see, right, once again, we know that the deltoid, the shoulder, is attaching actually up right all the way up here, right? Coming down, and then we can see from the shadow, we can see the deltoid sitting in this region in here. And then coming off here, we're coming from where the iliac crest comes around the form here, be attaching, would be, if we could see it, the acis would be sitting about here. And we're coming down. Once again, looking for straights, looking for direction change. Coming down to our knee, which is sitting about here. How easy it would be just to do that as a curve, right? And that's what we see happen all the time, is in people that are just starting their journey with figure drawing. We see curve against curve against curve. It's a crime against curves. We need straights with our curves, and they provide tension. It's a good thing. Sometimes tension is a good thing. In drawing, it's a good thing because it brings dynamics. Always useful. Just get into the habit of just, you know, as you're drawing, just asking yourself, what is it I'm drawing right now? Okay. Calf coming down to the Achilles tendon. So there's a direction change. Oh, because I was thinking about it, when I'm making this mental note, I realize I'm going to need a direction change from here into here and then down into the heel of the foot. Okay, now I'm drawing the front, the tibia, coming down to the ankle. Oh, there's a direction change there. Okay, that's good. And then coming into the bones of the foot, coming down, and then into the toe, sitting in here. And if you're constantly telling yourself or asking yourself, what is it that I'm drawing? You end up with making a subconscious kind of checklist. You know, reality is, as you get more comfortable with this whole process, that whole process will become more subconscious, but still. Just always ask yourself, what is it that I'm drawing? Now, in the reference, we can see a tiny bit of that top plane of the box, but it's really not necessary. We can make that, we can turn that just so that we're just like seeing it front on. It's just cleaner, right? Sometimes you just want to make a choice and just go, you know what? Now this is really superfluous, but I am going to just suggest that there is some detail going on here. Not really copying it exactly, just to give us some sense of, you know. That'll do. Pencil change. Because I want to start thinking about, once again, how are my core shadows going to help describe form, anatomy, etc. So I want a nice recalibrated edge on my pencil. Just going to just think very loosely about where this. We go from light into tone, where the form is turning in space. That half-inch pencil, the Aguirre. Well, you know, the nice thing about the pencil holder is I can literally be working with stubs like this, which means I'm getting just a lot more mileage, obviously, out of these pencils. So yeah, it's a handy thing, all right. Now we have a very subtle half tone. We're going from lit side of the form here, right? We've got a light source kind of coming in this direction down, right? So this is all very much lit. But then as the form turns, as her rib cage turns in space, you see like right about here, we go from lit into half tone. But then interestingly, then this area becomes lit again, right? Where the gluteus is kind of pressed against this this seat that she's on, and we end up then with a lit part of the form sitting kind of in here, and then back into tone as we go away from the light here. So just want to use these things to our advantage if we can. Work very subtly at this point. We don't need, this is all silhouette essentially, right? And her face and this whole area. And two. Now I need to actually draw her the front of her anatomy here. So it's a very small gap, and I'm not crazy about these small types of gaps. Usually I try and favor to not show them, but I think in this case we kind of need to show where the, you know, the front of the form, obviously. So now even here, look at the way that the oblique kind of fits in here. Once again, a little pocket of shadow kind of in here. But if I just squint and just say, okay, what is in light and what is in shadow, even though this part and this part are in two different values, at least at this point, I'm throwing them together. I can always make that a bit darker down the line, but it's critical for simplicity's sake to say what is in light and what is in shadow. You can always subdivide. Same thing here. This is all in shadow. This huge problem that bringing too many values into the drawing really is a case of less is more. So much of the time. At least to start with, we just say, okay, this is all in shadow. Okay, simple statements done. Do you read the comments too? I do, just means. I read, I'm keeping an eye, don't you worry. Not always, but for the most part. Okay, so now I can say to myself, okay, how do we want to subdivide? Let's actually soften everything up just a little bit here. Then we'll get into, just want to get rid of a bit of the noise on the page. This is where charcoal really just comes into its own. The level of flexibility and dexterity you can have with it. It's unmatched. Actually, I want to give this side of this box where it's gone away from the light some tone. Same tonal value. Okay, so now I can start to say, okay, where are my darker darks? Where are my lighter lights? Right, now I just need to clean my hand. Okay. So I've got some areas of real dark darks, one being in this region in here, which I do think is worth us exploiting. So I'm going to just re-establish this. And once again, we've got that oblique coming around here, right? And same thing here, a real dark dark coming down. In here, in here. Can you do a tutorial on what shapes to use in figure drawing? Well, when we're talking about shapes, we're really talking about design language and how, and design language is obviously a huge subject, and how we use things like straights against curves and that type of thing. I have a video, just means, if you go to my channel page, can't tell you exactly where it is. On the top row on my channel page, it's like most popular videos. If you scroll, it's probably about 5 or 6 along from the most popular. There's one with a blue, it's a blue thumbnail. The drawing on it is blue, sorry. Like all the others are kind of black and white. And it's of a leg where I'm talking about overlapping shapes. Check that video out, because that is essentially a primer where I discuss design language. It's a bit basic, it's a bit short, but it'll get the cogs turning, kind of thing. So check that video out. I think you'll find it useful. But design language is everything. It really is. Not everything. It's a huge component. And I don't think design language is talked about enough as a concept. And its relative importance to what it is that we're doing. Because it comes back to this idea of language, right? Design language. And I'm a very firm believer in drawing being language, and us learning, hopefully, to at least get by talking in the native language of drawing. We may never be fluent, but you know, we can certainly build grammar and understanding. It's really a good place to start. So I'm actually going to go in now with the eraser and hit some of these lights. You want a link? If you can't find it, Lulu, I'll throw up. I'll pause and find it. If you can, awesome. Thank you, Lulu. I tell you, what would we do without Lulu? I don't know. And for those of you who don't know, Mega Explosion Man is Lulu, our mod and general keeper of ceremonies. Anyway, thank you. Yes, I think it understands. Sorry, not understands. It explains the core concepts. It's a primer for the idea of talking about design language. It's certainly not, exhaustive by any means. So I'm just going in now, just pulling out a few lights. Just a little bit. Very subtle, this process, but I always do wonder how much it actually shows up on camera. But it does. Definitely helps, at least for me. Pull out some of the lights. It's a Straights Against Curves video, yeah. And the thumbnail's blue and it's of a leg, and you have like a side view of a leg, Lulu. You just want to pull out a little bit of this halftone and this oblique. This is super subtle halftone, but it's nice to kind of describe the form there of the oblique. All right. I think I'm going to leave it there with this one. Actually, let's just suggest a hint at the ribs there. Super, 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 super subtle. Something like that. All right. 37 minutes on that one. That was way too long. You got it, Lulu. That's the one. Awesome. Thank you for doing that. Wonderful. All right. Lovely pose. But we are an hour in and we've done 2 poses, so that one took way longer than I had anticipated. This is the way it goes. Okay, pose number 3. There, we may end up finding ourselves in a position where we're doing some faster poses towards the end, which was kind of the last 2 were kind of by design in that respect anyway. Thank you, Tina. Hey, Tina. Good to see you along. Take care. There, that was fleeting. Take care, Tina. See you next week. Okay. Let's make the transition from coffee to tea, cold tea. Okay, next pose. Now, my feeling is I want to spend as long on this pose as we did on the last one. The next couple of poses are, especially the one after this one, is pretty challenging. So with that in mind, I'm going to aim, what's last words? I'm going to aim for like a 15-ish on this one, maybe 20. Let's see how it goes. Oh, thank you, Tina. You're too kind, really. I'll see you next week. It's much appreciated. All right, let's reset the clock because time is ticking. New challenge, new pose. Looks like Lulu has put the pose number up on the chat. Thank you again, Lulu. All right, let's draw. The arm is in the way, but we know that the axis of our shoulder is doing that. Lovely long rhythmical lines. Let's find some gesture here, shall we? Some nice S shape coming down. She's sitting here. She's actually, the pelvis is tilted. She's not sitting flat. Got this kind of idea going on, right? Now, always important. Okay, so large rhythmical ideas. If you look at where the seat is, or where her glutes would be here, you can see that this knee is actually about here, right? We've got a very foreshortened cylinder coming towards us, tibia going down this way. And on this side, we've got the knee is sitting, once again, if we look here, the box of this knee is sitting about here, right? And then this leg is obviously wrapped underneath here. We've got the foot sitting there, something like that. That's enough for now. What's more important at this point with a pose like this is the twist in the torso. So I want to find my center line, which down here is obviously sitting about here and down to here. But here there's this twist, kind of doing this. You know, the rib cage is sitting out here. navel's about here. Iliac crest coming down this way. Acis sitting in here. Iliac crest. A stretch on this side, right? So coming then rhythm, then we've got the scapula, shoulder blade sitting in here, this to the, what would be the head of the humerus, which is going to be roughly about here. This arm coming up this way, hand going up that way, head going away from us, here is somewhere in there. Once again, kind of probably nice to suggest the box she's sitting on here, just so we can get a sense of what's going on. This other arm, manubrium is up here, the pit of the neck, going to the clavicle. This arm is kind of coming out this way. Deltoid thing in here. Tricep sitting in there. Pectoral coming down this way, meeting up with the mass for the breast sitting in here. That'll do us for now. Iliac crest. Coming down to more box-like structure for the knee. Right, so we go from rounds to squares. Right, the large rounded muscle of the thigh, let's say the thigh muscles, and then we come down to the knee and things start getting much more angular. Generally speaking, right, wrists, knees, ankles, where the bone comes to the surface, structures tend to get more squared off and round. So it gives us an opportunity, once again, thinking about design language, how we can shift from rounds to straights and bring dynamics into the drawing just by virtue of the anatomy that we're drawing. Tibia coming down this way. Tibia sitting the ankle bone there. Notice the way that the tibia sits lower, so we get to actually no, sorry, the angle that we're at. Generally speaking, the tibia sits higher than the fibia on the outside. Yeah, so, but the point is they're not parallel to each other, which is really the main takeaway. But once again, we look, that gives us a chance to have overlapping forms and dynamics. Is actually more kind of angled like this. It's front plane of the knee. Now if you look here, right, so the hip is there, or the glute is there, let's say gluteus medius. And then we can see the calf actually starting about here, coming down this way, and drawing through and behind that leg, drawing the hidden form. We've almost got this type of thing going on. Oblique coming up this way, sitting in here. Same thing will be happening on this side, getting this type of effect. Okay, we're blocked in. Has anyone drawn with graphite matte pencils? Yeah, I don't know if is that are we reading too much into matte there, or is it just graphite, or is it matte a key component of that sentence? Have we drawn with graphite pencils? Absolutely. If you're drawing with graphite and you just want to get in reps, I'm a big believer in just cheap photocopy paper. Has just a lovely tooth for graphite pencils. It's a great inexpensive material to kind of work through reps of ideas. Graphite's that little bit more forgiving than charcoal, you know, as far as we explore the parameters of the material. Graphite will give you just a little bit more breathing space. I think graphite used in that way is actually a great kind of entry-level material on your journey towards charcoal, if you're a bit hesitant to start straight away with charcoal. Okay. Now pectoral muscle coming down this way. We're going to do one into the breast, and then we're making our transition to the rib cage, which is very quickly meeting up, as we can see, with the iliac crest sitting in here. And we get some push, you know, some traction on that side. And Faber-Castell, I think it's a mix of graphite and something matte. Do not know. So it's more matte. That makes sense. That's something interesting, actually. I'd be curious to try that. One of the reasons I just have never used graphite on the stream is the glare from the graphite is brutal under the cameras and these lights. Also, I like working with charcoal, but it does. Working with regular graphite is kind of that, not that. It's not that I couldn't. I guess I could probably figure it all out, but the matte nature of charcoal really does help read well on camera. No. Okay. You are done. I'll go back to this little sucker. See what's going on here. Okay. It's supposed to be graphite and have a shiny reflection. Well, thanks, Camille. I'll check that out. It's good to know. Good stuff. No, the thing is, like, I don't know whether this is like by, you know, I mean, no, there's a way to even rationalize or explain it, but I find myself never going to art stores. It just doesn't happen. And so, you know, there could very well be things that have either come onto the market in recent years or developments that have happened that I'm just completely oblivious to. It's almost like, you know, I found the materials I like working with, found kind of my process, and then you're just kind of like, okay, back to the cave. Probably wouldn't hurt to hit an art store every once a year and just see what's going on. All right, put that in there. Right, time to think about some. So we're at 15 minutes. Now I said we were going to go a little bit quicker on this. Okay, so let's try. We'll go for 5 minutes more. Let's see where we're at that point. Just want to just find some core shadow. Hmm. You guys are hanging in okay. That's a nice cast shadow coming off this leg here. Sitting in here. And a pillow. So it's kind of a quick tonal pass. But hopefully it just helps describe form just a little bit. It's not complex by any stretch, but the spirit of moving forward and you know. They are new tech apparently. Alright. Pit graphite matte. Matte and Castell 9000. Alright. Alright, done. Let's move on. Alright, now, next pose. I think we need to move to landscape mode. This one. So this is our this is our technical exercise for the session, this next one. Would we call it heavily foreshortened? Certainly some aspects of it are, but it's a generally we're working with a foreshortened pose. So we're going to be trying to find a balance between looking for those long rhythmical ideas in the first stages and also getting a little bit more technical about just understanding the relationships of things and how they relate to each other in space. So slightly different challenge. Let's see. Well, that doesn't look too bad. Let me reset the clock and let me find a suitable pencil. There we go, just like that. Okay, Exhibit E. Yeah. Yeah. Timer going. Now it's funny because, you know, I think we can actually find, even just at this stage, we can find some, hopefully we can find some rhythmical lines. But immediately I want to be thinking in terms of this relationship of the side of the form, right? If we think about her rib cage and its most simple and direct idea, we're looking at something like this, right? Got a sort of front plane, the side. We will build a rib cage into all of that. We want to be thinking right from the get-go with those things in mind. And then we come down, glutes sitting here, so we know that, you know, we can actually see very clearly this transition here. We can see the iliac crest coming along, see that ACES sitting about here, so we know that, can't see that there because our knee's in the way, but ACES is sitting in here. Center line, let's find it now. Okay, so if this is the edge of our box, the center line is coming down here. Now she is tilting her pelvis slightly. Do you want to be mindful of that? So I'm looking at measurement wise, I'm coming down from here, right? We've got a direction change right here. And then if I just kind of look and see where, okay, I can see it around here. I can see a bit of the glute just peeking out from the leg there. So it gives me a sense of where the base of the pelvis or the lower torso is there. Because this is kind of complex, right? There's a lot going on here. Once again though, if I was thinking about it in strict, kind of like in terms of boxes, we'd be looking at something, no, this is a complex box, but something like this. Turn would be about there. This is a bit ugly, but our oblique sitting in here. Once again, we will refine all of this as we go. You can see the ACES is here, right? If we come up to here, you can see our navel sitting about there, right? So once again, if I think about topography, got this kind of idea going on. And with that in mind, I know that the arch of the rib cage is going to be sitting in here. So now I've converted this box into more like an egg, right? We're getting closer. We're sculpting. We're breaking our larger ideas down into smaller ideas. Coming back to this here, so we can see that the knee really is sitting right about here. We've got some heavy foreshortening on this upper thigh. You can see from here that rectus femoris, and vastus lateralis, and all of those, and medialis obviously on this side. See that fitting in there. Just want to think about that as a shape, doing this type of idea, right? Then it's kind of going direction change like that, right? See that? And the box-like nature of the knee is going to be sitting in here. And then coming off this line, rhythmically, we've also got the tibia, which is then kind of folding back this way, right? Beautifully. Once again, we've got an opportunity for rhythm there. Nice. Okay, so with all of that said, coming back to my navel, which we can see here, right? General rule, right? Halfway between the bottom of the rib cage and the top of the iliac crest, the hip bone, is our navel. Now, because of the perspective and the foreshortening, this is kind of looks a little bit different because obviously the bottom of our rib cage is here, but we are dealing with foreshortening in this case. What is my point? Why am I rambling? Because if I look at this and I say, okay, I'm iliac crest here, navel is about here, I'm satisfied. Okay, but then look at where this knee is. Let's come out to about here and we have the edge of that knee. So that's nice. It's handy. That knee's sitting there. And then if we kind of also look at, okay, rib cage is sitting here, that's good. See that thigh coming here, and oh, look at that. Look at the way how conveniently that connects to this mass here. Oh, what are the chances? Well, the chances are very good because we're following anatomical ideas. We're drawing through the form, hidden or otherwise. We want to understand how these things connect. If we could put topography lines on this upper thigh, right? Forget the fact that we've got the tibia coming down this way and we've got the foot that's going to be sitting in here. Okay, that's fine. Not the point. If we drew topography lines around this thigh, it would look something like this, right? It's like a tapered cylinder coming towards us. Once again, thinking volumetrically. Good. All right, let's come. Now, massive point, huge point. We've made this point many times on the stream, but for those of you who are new to the proceedings, the critical thing with foreshortening is that all lines flow in the direction of the foreshortening. So look at the way, for those of you who've got the reference, look at the way the breasts sit on the form, and the line, direction line is like this, right? Following the foreshortening. Don't do a curve in this direction, however tempted you might be. Even if, I would argue, it's something you saw on your model, if the breast, say you saw the curve of the breast coming in this direction, don't do it. Follow the form. Nothing will kill foreshortening quicker than curves that are not following the direction that the foreshortening is moving in. So you have to really be mindful of that stuff and resist the temptation of doing what you think in your mind is right. But breasts hang down in a curve. No, they don't, not in foreshortening. So don't make that mistake. Look at the way the breast sits on the form here. We're sitting on, the volume of it is sitting on, in this region in here, right? It's not hanging down this way. Can't emphasize it enough. Pull that down just a little bit there. And the pectoral muscle heading off in this direction. And we come back all the way to right what we discussed at the beginning, which is the top of the box here, which is going to be where the manubrium is. probably a little bit higher. Come to think of it, let's pull this up just a little bit. Yeah, let's pull the maneuver into here. Clavicle coming up this way. And you've got the mass of the deltoid sitting in here. Pectoral muscle sitting in here. Deltoid. If we come from the point of measurement, the breast is there. Come down, my forearm is sitting about here. And it's a cylinder, tapered cylinder coming towards me, right? We've got the upper arm obviously sitting here. I'm almost slightly coming away from this very, very subtly. And then we've got the wrist foreshortening on this forearm. Coming into the wrist, sitting here. Hand is sitting there, something like that. So, you know, when we got these kind of technical exercises with these foreshortened poses, we have to we're constantly trying to flipping back and forth between trying to be analytical, but then it's like, how can we bring aesthetic and hopefully something, you know, that doesn't feel too, you know, labored, let's say. Not always an easy task. So I've got the jaw, the head is obviously right back, like that. And then when we get to the tie down stage, hopefully we can really start to kind of push rhythmical and design language ideas. We're kind of still in the trenches here as far as just finding where things are relative to each other. That's a funny thing with figure drawing, is just knowing when to shift gears and when we need to kind of dip into the toolbox and look for it, use the tools in a slightly different order so that we can hopefully achieve what it is that we need to get. Tibia, go down there. Okay. Got about 50 meh drawings. It says Piano Madness, great name. So still got some work to do. Yeah, look, you got to get those 1,000 bad drawings out of the way. I've been practicing, sorry, I'm just reading back up the chat here. Practicing figure drawing for the last month. Does anyone recommend any particular charcoal pencils? Hey, I should buy. Look, if you want to work with charcoal piano, I would say smooth newsprint is your friend, your best friend. This is what I'm using here. It's cheap, but that's not the point. It's smooth. Charcoal plays nicely with it. And just get yourself 4 6B charcoal pencils. Try some different brands. I'm using Generals. mileage may vary, the quality of these things vary too. So I'm hesitant to just say, yes, use this brand. That you will need to explore in your own time. But the smooth newsprint is a really, in my opinion, it's a key component to that. Now, tie down time. Let's go. What are we looking for? That's right, direction change. Oblique, coming in, meeting up with the rib cage. Oh, and then I'm meeting up with the latissimus, so there's going to be another direction change. Okay, something like that. Well, that conveniently brings me to where the arm meets. And we got that very, very subtle little pad. And then down here too, we've got this little subtle bit there. Nice. Coming off the very box-like nature of the wrist, and then into the more rounded form of the forearm. Same on this side, coming around the form. Deltoid coming up this way. See that kind of mass of the deltoid sitting in there, right? Cool. So let's continue this journey. So knees here. So we've got a little crease line sitting in here. Something like that. And then we've got coming straight down into the mass for the calf. And then where it meets up with the tibia sitting in here. Coming down this way. All right. A lot of different direction changes. Are you only using 6B pencils for figure drawings? Emmanuel, it's all I use. Really, actually, no, that's a lie. These are 4Bs, but they're as soft as 6Bs. And that's the other thing that you need to be mindful of is, like, let's take generals as an example. 6Bs can be as hard as 4Bs. The 4Bs can be as hard as 6Bs. You know, we're dealing with charcoal, we're dealing with carbon. So this is technically a 4B. I've had 6Bs that are harder than this, and I've had 4Bs that are even softer than this. But technically I'm using a 6B, I would say, if you're asking. And I do not switch up, I do not really change thicknesses or hardness of pencils depending on the stage I'm in. I just change the amount of pressure I'm applying. And it's really about just knowing the knowing the range of your material, and knowing what that point is where things will change or shift gear or whatever. Okay, let's now we have this inner thigh. How straight some of these lines are before we hit curves. Right? Come around the form. It's actually lower. It's okay. Down to my ankle. Into the foot. And once again, coming around the hidden form, finding that thigh. Sitting in there, and we're going to have our half sitting in here. Once again, let's get a peek of the glute sitting in there. Yeah, the 5.6mm clutch pencil that you were talking about, Lulu. That's probably my next purchase. I need to try that. I did Google it, found it. I've yet to order it, but yeah, I'm going to give that a try. Curious. All right, there's a lot of business and anatomy to kind of get into when we get into tone. I'm going to just continue with the overall structural kind of tie down for right now. So we're coming in abdominal and then rib cage. Okay. We have the heel of the foot there, and then we do actually see, once again, in the interest of just drawing through the form, we do have the other foot sitting here. Okay, good enough. Okay. All right, I think we're at a point where we want to start thinking about some tone, which will then obviously help describe form, etc. Okay, I'm going to Yeah, where's Rick? You know, Rick will show up in 5 minutes and go, oh, what happened? Rick, if you're watching this after the fact, hope you're well. Your presence was missed. And it is 5 to 7, so I do think this is probably the last pose, guys. Anyway, let's keep going here. Finding some just basic core shadows. Dave says, I'm not a fan of core nor hard mouth lids at all. Too hard. Appropriately named, yes. Interesting. Alright. Good to know. Yeah, look, I think that these things, it's really just down to, you know, I think I almost know about the first stroke whether the pencil's going to be a good fit for me or not. So I think, yeah, I'll be able to figure out pretty quickly where we're at with that. Now, so we've got so you've got what's essentially what's called the patella, the kneecap, sitting here, but then below that, right, the kneecap, the patella is actually attached with a tendon down. It actually attaches to the tibia down here with this kind of like tendon type thing. Between that and then the mass of where the tibia and the femur connect, and that box-like structure, we end up with this second transition, which Tone is describing here. I'm going to, there's a lot of subtle halftones here, but I'm going to simplify as much as I can. And there's some interesting cast shadows down here, but I want to be mindful of just things not getting too busy. A little bit of colouring in. throw that into tone. At this point, really just using the material that's already kind of on the page. And even when I'm doing these types of sweeps, remember, always work in the direction for foreshortening. Let's go in with the eraser and just pull out a little bit, and then we will call it a life for this one. You could obviously go further and push and pull with the tone and get to the next level of subtlety. You know, also in the interest of a good clean read that we're dealing with, sometimes less is more. Leak. Let's try and show that transition. And the aces sitting here. Let's show the domal there. Okay. All right. Glad to hear it, Thomas. And you know what, guys? I think I'm going to call it there. Is it perfect? No, of course not. But then, is that what we're striving for? Maybe on occasion, not today. Done. Okay, we got through, let's review. We got through 4 of 6 poses. You know what we're going to do? Because, you know, it's going to be a week till I see you guys next. We're going to skip the next pose. We're going to go to the last pose. We're going to do a 5-minute pose. Quick gesture. All right. Nice, easy, standing back pose. Strict 5. Okay. No messing around. So we are moving to pose number 6. We are skipping number 5. Okay. 5 minutes. No messing around. We're nicely warmed up now. Let me get a fresh pencil. You'll do. Change the clock. All right, let's do this. Thank you, Lulu. 5 minutes. Some nice kind of rhythmical ideas going on here. This arm coming down this way to here. Trapezius. And the scapula sitting in here, pushed against the center. This one out. Sacrum. Iliac crest. Let's find our butterfly motif. Our upside down butterfly motif. Sitting in there. So when we're working quickly, we're transitioning to, we're still thinking about obviously all the same principles, but sometimes we're jumping straight to the anatomy, the core of the idea. We're not, necessarily, we're kind of hybridizing steps, let's say. That's not the right word. And slide coming down. So. Occipital ridge is up here. Bun. Buns are always really great, useful tools for helping kind of seat ahead, if that makes sense. So this. There we go. Tricep. 3:45, where time is ticking. Make quick choices. We really need to do a dedicated gesture session. I feel like it's been way too long. "30 seconds to go." And there's 5. Little bit too much twist in that body. What are you going to do? Yeah, bit of fun. Guys, we made it. Thank you, Dave. I'm guessing you're drawing flat. No, I'm on the board is on about a 30-degree angle. I guess I can show you kind of, this is basically what I've got going on, right? So the camera is on an angle, so it looks flat, but I'm drawing about 35 degrees. In an ideal world, I'd be drawing at about 45. But I'm trying to find a balance for the camera and, and my own kind of comfort. Plus, if I start drawing flat, that's a major issue as far as distorted perspective, and you run into all kinds of other problems drawing flat. My recommendation is, generally speaking, is to have a loose board, to basically to rest it on your lap and against the table, and then to move either closer or further away from the table to find an angle that is nice for you. But you basically, you don't want any distortion between your vision or the way that you're looking at the board, right? So if the board is angled like this, let's say, the more it's angled, the more potential distortion comes into the drawing. So in an ideal world, you want to just be looking straight at it, right? You know what I mean. Guys, we made it. That was a good session. Pose number 5 is there for those of you who would like to give it a tackle. Once again, just to review, to summarize, today we worked with a free reference pack from Grafit. If you follow the links in the description, you'll see all the business. You'll be able to access that the free poses, all 650 of them. There's some fantastic poses in this set from Grafit Studio. Please go check them out. I think that, it's free. Why wouldn't you? They do ask that you leave a nice comment on their site in return. I think that's very fair. I did that. You'll see my comment up there if you go over to that page. But we want to support the hard work that's a company like Grafit does, because and also for other reference packs you can use a code, or you'll see on my website, and you get 15% off. So that's a nice thing. Great idea to utilize the graphic free pack. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, and there's another free pack which I will utilize in the future, and we'll revisit this one at some point in the future too. But here's the other point. For those of you who are new to the stream or new to this process, if you're on a PC or a laptop, you'll probably see a join button. If you fancy joining, no obligation, but if you do join, it's like $3 a month or something, and you'll have, on my website, you'll have reference to all of the reference poses that I use on any particular stream. So I normally post the poses before the stream starts, and then you can follow the link in the community chat. If you're a member, you'll see the link. It'll reveal itself, and then you can go to my website. You can draw along with the reference, and you can draw along as we go. And then you don't have to, you don't have to be hunting through the free pack to find the images. They're all in a nice collection together, and you'll see. And so, like, for the $3, sorry, I'm hawking my stuff here, but for the $3 a month, you'll have access to every single reference, and usually the month before, frankly, because I'm bad at keeping on top of things. And you can draw along. I think that's fair. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. That was a good session. I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. We will be back, all things being equal, we will be back next Monday. And I've got some ideas of what I might want to cover. It might be nice to take a deep dive onto something, whether it be anatomy or let's see. I've got a few ideas. Guys, thank you so much, really. In the meantime, take care of yourselves, and I will see you next week. And if you've got any questions, you can leave them in the comments below. Oh, by the way, one last thing. If you wouldn't mind hitting that like button, apparently it helps. So that would be appreciated. Okay, guys, take care of yourselves. I will see you next week. All right, cheers. Bye now.